When drunk, angry in-laws lied about a domestic violence case on Thanksgiving, we got that case dismissed. Want to find out more? Watch the video to find out how we did it. I'm Adam Rawson with the Rawson Law Firm. We help good people when bad things happen to them so they can achieve their best futures. Today, I'm going to talk about our client, Nate, and what happened with him when he made the unfortunate mistake of having his in-laws come over for Thanksgiving weekend. This case happened about 3 years ago, and Nate's in-laws wanted to come down from another part of the country and spend the time with them. Even though he didn't particularly like them, he didn't particularly get along with them, he said, sure, we'll have them stay at our house. He wanted to keep his wife happy. And when they came, it was quickly the house guests from hell. There was a lot of drinking involved, and they came and just thought this was party time. They were drinking like crazy, they were eating all his food, they were just really not respecting the rules of the house at all. And it became, a lot of tension between Nate and his wife during this basically a 4-day period of just disaster. It all culminated on Thanksgiving. There was a big blowout fight argument between all of them. Really, the issue was not even with Nate's mother or father-in-law, it was with his sister-in-law and her boyfriend. A whole family mess, right? Thanksgiving. And of course, we think of Thanksgiving as great happy times, which for most of us it is, but for a lot of us, these holiday times are when something really bad happens, especially among family. So it all ended when our client Nate kicked them all out of the house, said, you guys got to go. And the argument spilled from inside the house all the way onto the driveway, all into the house where the cars were. They were kind of getting in the car, but then they were getting out of the car and they weren't leaving. Nate basically said, you guys gotta go, kind of gently, helped them, assist them, and just shut the door. And what happened? They left. Now, the family was very upset because they had no place to go, and their free vacation with free food and free rent and free everything was over. They were still actually drunk when they drove away, and they had to spend money on a hotel. So they were quite upset. And our client Nate, didn't really think much of it. His wife took his side, and they heard nothing of it until March of the next year, 4 months later. Nate gets an issue summons in the mail that says, you've been charged with the crime of battery, misdemeanor. You're looking at a year in jail, and you have to go to court in 2 weeks to answer for these charges. Our client Nate is a professional. He has a very successful career. He's never been in trouble before, never been charged with a crime, never been arrested, and he was shocked. It didn't even say exactly what happened. His world was turned upside down. So he calls us, he comes in, we pull the police reports, we figure out what happened, and lo and behold, from 4 months earlier, that was the situation from Thanksgiving. His sister-in-law, his loving sister-in-law, the next day she went to the hospital and showed bruises and complained of injuries. And she had a medical bill. So 2 days after the alleged incident, she goes to the police station. And she's there with her boyfriend, she's there with her mother, and they're filing a report saying, oh, Nate beat me up, he's a terrible person, he slammed the door into my leg and pushed me against the car, and he has a temper and he's abusive. All things that we ultimately proved were not true at all. He was obviously very upset. His wife was upset again. This kind of stirred up all of the family emotions. So they hired us and we got to work right away. We worked the case for, I'd say, a good 6 to 8 months. Basically what we did is we convinced the prosecutor's office that it was a complete fabrication, it was a complete lie. And how did we really know that or be able to, prove that? If they were the victims of a vicious attack, they would have and should have called 911 immediately. The question is, why did they wait 2 whole days? I have my theories. It was made up. They went to the hospital 24 hours later. So if you're hurt and injured and you think you have a broken bone or you were violently attacked by a violent man, right? You would go to the hospital right away. You wouldn't wait. And they did. And of course, there was some bruising and marks then, but we have no evidence of when that bruising occurred and who did the bruising. For all we know, they could have done it themselves. So on these type of cases, when there's a motive to lie, a lot of times that accompanies a delay in reporting. If they truly were injured, were truly scared, they would have called police right away. They would have went to the hospital right away. They would have wanted that documentation immediately. And they didn't have any of that. So what did we do? We used that to our advantage. And actually, we spoke with the mother. We spoke with Nate's mother-in-law, and she signed a statement saying that the whole thing, not from her, but from her other daughter, the alleged victim, was a fabrication. She said, no, I didn't see, Nate hurt them or violently attack them or slam the door on them. So we ended up turning her into a defense witness. So that was very good. The other thing is, since the alleged victim, right, Nate's sister-in-law and her boyfriend lived on the West Coast of the United States, we were going to have to take their deposition. And we were willing to fly out there and take their deposition and spend 2, 3, 4, 5 hours grilling them. We had pulled their criminal history and shown they had both been arrested before for various crimes, and they both had histories of drinking and using drugs and just not the same kind of person that our client Nate was. And we were going to go into all of those details. We were going to go into the whole dynamics during these depositions, which is our greatest tool to attack and defend and really win cases. And we had put the pressure on them. If we got to fly out to defend any client, we do it. We do anything that we have to do or need to do to win. Of course, as long as it's within the ethical rules. Pretty much by us pressuring them and really forcing them, they folded. They knew that we were going to expose their lies, which their perjury, and that we were going to really hold their feet to the fire, because if you get caught committing perjury, that's a 3rd-degree felony. In Florida, that's a maximum of 5 years in prison. And by us pushing forward aggressively on that case and really working very well with the prosecutors believed our client, didn't believe their own victims. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a complete dismissal for our client Nate. He's doing fantastic. He's still a professional. We actually moved and worked really hard to expunge his record so that way it could not be found anywhere. We've helped him achieve his best future, because how in the world would he have known that this situation, this verbal argument on Thanksgiving 4 months later, would turn into a criminal charge? It was really hard for him emotionally and mentally, have that stigma. And luckily for him and his wife, we ended up taking care of the whole thing, and he's super happy and grateful, and we're just happy that we can help him through this bad situation. So that's that case. Just another example of how we help people. If you have any questions, concerns, need help for anything at all, just give us a call, 754-206-6200. This is what we do. This is what we love, and we'd love to help you out.